Thank you, Dave. My name is Dennis Stevens. I'm the chairman of the Business Working Group. And, the Business Working Group is a unique instantiation within the consortium. Most standards bodies focus on the technical aspects of a solution and standardizing. What we've done in this consortium is added a business of equal weight, a business working group of equal weight, to study the business aspects and the business implications of these new standards. So our focus is to look at the business interactions between the end user and the suppliers and to ensure there's value that's achieved by both. In order to do that, we took a page out of the architectural group and said, how do we architect a business structure? And so we created a role-based architectural structure that you see up in this chart that breaks down the ecosystem, the business ecosystem of the end user, the system integrator, the subsystem integrator, and the hardware and software suppliers, as well as the maintenance and sustainment suppliers. And we asked ourselves a couple of questions about that. What are the interactions? What are the boundaries? What are the abstractions that have to occur to make this standard successful in a business aspect? What are the interactions between the system integrator and the end user, the system integrator and the subsystem supplier? And we studied that. We held workshops. And those workshops were focused on two areas: stakeholder value, where we pulled both the buyer and the seller into the room, into the workshop, and we evaluated the stakeholder needs and interactions of each of those roles in the ecosystem. From that, then we derived the set of what were called quality attributes. Quality attributes are non-functional attributes or requirements that are that mountain that we want to climb, that goal that we want to achieve. And there are some fundamental quality attributes that are just basic given attributes, things such as safety and reliability, that are a given. But then we examined the other quality attributes, such as interoperability, portability, availability. We agreed on a definition so that we were all singing from the same song sheet as to what those meant. And then we graded the importance of those. And so with this foundation, a business interaction foundation of understanding the roles and responsibilities, the importance from a business perspective of those roles and the quality attributes associated with that, we were able to go forth and create documentation on what exactly we want to achieve from a business perspective for the community. So we stood up 3 subcommittees that I'll talk about. The 3 subcommittees are the Business Working Group, Marketing and Outreach, and Conformance. One thing we've learned from other consortiums, that if you cannot communicate the value proposition in a clear and concise manner to the community, the chances of adoption of the standard become limited. And so we created a subcommittee to create a business guide. And I urge you to read that business guide because it gives a very clear and concise description of the value proposition that's created by the technical standard and the implementation of it. The next question that we tackled is, well, how do you buy a system? You created this open system, you created modularity, components, both of software and hardware. Well, how do you procure it? How do you sell it? How do you market it? So we're in the process right now of creating what's called a procurement guide that gives guidance to the end buyer of what to ask for, how to ask for it, how to reference the standard, what artifacts to ask for, what deliverables to ask for, so that you have a maintainable system into the future. It provides guidance to the seller, okay? When an RFP is on the street for a system or subsystem or components, how do I respond to that RFI or RFP? What are the elements that that end user is expecting to see? And so this documentation provides that guidance. The Marketing and Outreach Subcommittee is responsible for creating the media briefings, the media materials, some of the materials you saw out in the hallway here, communicating the message, communicating the understanding of an open architecture and business aspects of that framework. Moving to an open architecture system takes a little bit of understanding, takes a little bit of the state change that occurs, and this group is charged with delivering that message. Demonstrations and technical interchange meetings. In other consortiums of equivalent goals as this one, there's demonstrations, technical interchange meetings that are sponsored by the Marketing and Outreach Group that bring the suppliers and buyers together in a technical interchange meeting where they bring their products and prove to the community the viability of the approach. The third committee is conformance. This committee, the conformance committee, is one of the toughest committees from a business perspective because they straddle the boundary between technical and business. And sometimes they get ahead of business, or ahead of technical. And the Enterprise Architecture Group, led by Dave Emerson, has got to reel us back a little bit, because sometimes we get too far along. For example, in another consortium of similar activities, the conformance subcommittee went as far as to already defining the certification verification matrix. And technical folks said, hey, wait a minute, we're not there yet, so let's slow down a little bit. That's where the Enterprise Architecture Group comes into play. The whole idea behind the conformance subcommittee is to ensure that the technical standard is adhered to through processes and procedures to a 100% conformance. And what we mean by that is we have a technical standard, we have shall statements in the technical standard. 100% conformance means that a supplier creating a product that matches that standard just isn't compliant with the standard, meaning they made it 80% of the way, and the other 20%, they get a waiver. No. We can't accept that if we want true interoperability and portability. And so the conformance subcommittee is putting in policies and procedures for 100% conformance. So when you receive a product that has a stamp of approval on it, you know that it met 100% of the requirements. So through a certification policy and then certification procedures. Okay, so how do you certify a component? Who do you go to? And that's under discussion, and it's being worked right now through the group. Things such as a verification authority that does the technical verification of the standard, a third party, followed by a certification authority that's overlooking the whole operation and making sure that everyone is a bona fide verification authority and supplier has all the credentials in place. And then a method of discovery. So once these modules are in place, how do you discover them as a user? So a registry will be put in place. So you as the end user, or you as a system integrator, or a subsystem integrator can go to that registry, look at the metadata that describes the software or hardware module that was built to the technical standard, and be able to look at it and say, yeah, I can use that in my system. I'm going to go now talk to the supplier and get more technical detail under perhaps a non-disclosure agreement. So those three subcommittees under the business working group are the focus of what we do. and then we work in conjunction with the technical working group to accomplish the overall success of the standard. Thank you.